So we know our character is not square. Well, obviously he's kind of round. So what I can do is I can kind of do a smooth preview, see what it would look like when he's smooth. So that's just pushing 3 on my keyboard. 1 on my keyboard will show me the default polygons. So I want to round this guy out a little bit, so I have to add some more geometry. So I just go into my Edit Mesh, and I can use my Insert Edge Loop tool. So what this guy does, it allows me to click on an edge, and basically when I release it, after it shows me those dotted lines are actually where it's going to cut. So it just created some more geometry for myself. So I go in here, drop it down, and it's always a good idea that as soon as you do any kind of adding in there, you probably want to go and move those around. Because once you start getting a lot of geometry and start dropping in lots of edge loops, things will get out of control very, very quickly, and you want to just make sure that everything's doing exactly what you want it to do right away. Just saves you some time, some effort later on. So I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to go to my Rotate tool. I'm using a lot of shortcuts for this, so I'm using Q for my selection tool, W for my move tool, E for my rotate, R for my scale. A lot of those guys are actually shown here on the left hand side, and they're fairly kind of intuitive. You got the little arrow to select your different objects, you've got the move, so it's got that little arrow, you got the rotate, you got the scale. You're probably wondering how I'm jumping around and grabbing all these little points and faces and objects and all that kind of stuff. So basically what this is manipulating or sculpting our object. So to get to this little hot menu that you've probably seen pop up a couple times, it's just right mouse button clicking and holding. And then we have various selections that we can make. So in object mode, it's the basic grab a large object. So we'll grab the whole object. Doesn't matter where you click, grabs the whole thing. Right click and hold again. And we have face mode. So what face mode does, it allows us to grab and select this guy by the different faces that make it up. We can go even smaller than that, and you can go into edge mode. So this allows us to grab each edge that you see here, so the blue stuff. So you can move it, you can rotate it, you can scale it up, you can scale it down, and then we can go into even smaller by going into our vertice, and that allows us to really kind of noodle with what we're doing. So you'll see me jump in between those guys, and you can do it quite fast for that marking menu to come up. You can just right click and hold, and if you really get into it, you can just right click and hold, and as you can see, you can kind of drag down and the menu doesn't come up. And sometimes it gets stuck in some weird areas there, but you can just click drag down or click drag up really, really quickly, so it doesn't even really come up, and it'll change those different component modes. So it's really, really handy when you get into it. You really don't need to wait for that stuff to come up to read it. You'll just get into the feel of things. But for right now, I'll try to keep my pace fairly slow. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, you can kind of see that I'm going into face mode. And I'm just kind of rounding this guy off, because again, our torsos are a little bit round. I grabbed the bottom set of faces, and you can do a marquee selection just by clicking, holding, dragging with the left mouse button, releasing, and then it's just going to grab everything in that selection area. So it's always a good idea to go around and rotate around your object just so that you don't grab anything that you don't want, and just to keep the faces on the bottom selected but those faces on top not selected. What we can do is we can just hold Control, do another marquee select, and then it'll deselect everything in that selections box. So I'm just going to grab these guys on the bottom, kind of rotate them into position, looking pretty decent so far. And I'm going to go and I'm going to use that Extrude tool. So it's underneath the Edit Mesh, we've got Extrude. Anywhere you see this box, we've got some options. You can dig in there and see what's going on. But for right now, I'm just going to go Extrude. It's going to change it to this nice little box. Nice kind of multi-manipulator here, and I'm just going to use that. I'm going to switch back to my move tool. I'm going to pull it down. So it just created some new faces for me. So I'm going to use these new faces and sculpt a little bit more of this guy's maybe butt. So it gets a little bit wider here. Again, we're just kind of using this as general reference. Looks like the guy's a little bit tilted off to the side. You can do maybe a little bit of work of that in Photoshop to make him nice and straight. But again, just kind of getting that curve in there You know, making his butt stick out a little bit. Move it back. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So we'll do that one more time. And we'll use this to kind of finish off that area in the crotch. A little bit area. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to scale this. So you can see you can actually stop your scaling from happening on different axes. If you grab the one in the middle, you scale everything proportionally. If you grab the guy on top, you know, it scales on the y-axis. If you grab it on the blue one, it scales just on the z there. So you can kind of limit how you're deforming things. So I'm just going to go in here again. Now rotate this guy. Maybe flatten it out a little bit. So here I've got the torso going on. So I could keep on going, grabbing the top, and doing some extrudes. Then I'll start shaping the chest. So extrude, it's a handy little function for creating more geometry from stuff that we've already got. So it's great for creating this torso area. So let's say that we want to do the legs. We can use the exact same tool. We can do a extrude on it. So just selecting a couple faces that we want to use to create the leg. So right here, we just go to the faces. We'll grab a couple, and sometimes it's a little bit of an experimentation there. If we want to grab some of the butt, that's okay too. But I'm just going to grab these two faces. Edit mesh, and I could do, again, an extrude. That creates more faces for me, so I can pull that down, and then I can kind of rotate these guys into position. Do some scaling. Or if I really want to move around by, say, a face or a vertice, I can always go into one of those modes. Pull this stuff out, and I just want to confirm that I'm moving the right ones. Again, it's always a pretty good idea to make sure that before you add too much geometry that you get what you've got in the right positions. So going here and sculpting. So you can see that it can take quite some time to kind of get this going, but we can save time. What I could do is I could use another tool. And here I'm just going to go into the front view. And I'm going to actually delete half my character. So half of my guy, boom, gone. You know, there he is. What I can do is I could continue sculpting this one side and then go into one of my other menus here and actually go underneath mesh, and you can go mirror geometry. So what this allows me to do is take what I've already got and essentially duplicate it. So here's just asking me which way I want to mirror it. I take a look at my little compass. The way that the arrow is pointing is positive. So positive on the red X, I want to actually flip this over on the other side. So I go negative, merge it, boom, and you see all of a sudden we've got a character kind of coming together. So hit 3 on my keyboard. You can kind of see that he's looking kind of, you know, goopy. So we need to go in here and we need to refine him a little bit more. So you're going in, grabbing the couple faces that make up his leg. And we can grab both of those. You can do some more extruding. I'll pull that stuff down. And again, before things get a little bit too crazy with geometry, looks like his leg isn't rounding out. So usually what I do to save time is I'll just build half the character, especially if he's so symmetrical, which is really nice. You know, got one right arm, one right leg. You know, it's pretty much the same as our left side. So again, just doing this to save ourselves some time, some work, and do it efficiently. So legs around. We'll go in, we'll add some of that roundness in there. And we're always going to be checking our smooth preview, making sure that it kind of aligns to our image here. And if we want, again, you know, we could make some bigger changes right off the bat. and then go back in and use that split polygon tool to go back and really kind of refine the detail. So you can see there I made majority of the leg fairly quickly, and then I could go back and refine it, insert those edge loops, drop that in there, and again, since I've dropped that in there, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make sure that all of those vertices that I just added, all of those edges are in the place I want them to be.